Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Crystal Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means. Joining me as always is AMC's editor-in-chief, Mr. John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best day movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you live from right here at the Stream.TV studios here in Hollywood, California, and we are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
We also have joining us AMC's very own Christian Harloff.
I am here, and I'm happy to be here. Missing AMC Movie Talk this week. I don't know why I do that John Lovitz thing.
Yeah, where did that come from?
I don't
the critic,
know.
The critic is here.
Thank you.
And we also have very special guest from the Schmoes Know podcast, Mr. Mark Ellis.
Well, isn't that special? Figured I'd do an 80s SNL character if everybody else is.
Very good.
All right, guys, according to a report from Screen Daily, Marvel is now setting up plans to have the cast for the upcoming Doctor Strange movie fully in play by the end of 2014 or early 2015, with shooting to begin in May of 2015. The site also claims that Marvel will use the July 8th, 2016 date they announced that they were holding for the Sorcerer Supreme. John, if Marvel doesn't start shooting until May of 2015, is July 2016 too soon for a release date?
No, the reality is the production timeline on this movie is probably going to be like 3 months anyway. So, and you know they're working on the film now. Like all the previs stuff, they're doing a lot of work as we speak. So this is all coming. What this does tell me though is that, and let's remember, this is speculation. I've read some websites this morning that are irresponsibly running that it's been confirmed Marvel is doing that July 8th, 2016 as the, no it hasn't. This is all coming from one report from one site, and it very well could be true. Marvel did reserve that date quite some time ago. We know it's for something. It very well could be the Sorcerer Supreme, but remember, it's not confirmed yet. That could be something else. But if it is, I think it fits into the timeline, and it does kind of tell me that I'm going to guess 3 weeks. 3 weeks from now, somewhere between now and 3 weeks, we will find out officially who is going to be him. Whether it's going to be Joaquin Phoenix, whether it's going to be Ray Rice, who knows? But it's going to be somebody. We're going to find out soon. Anyway, Christian.
I'd probably go with Phoenix over Rice.
Probably, yes.
I think that it will be in 3 weeks, and I think it'll probably land around the New York Comic-Con timeline.
Completely agree.
And I think that if the July date is confirmed, if that's where it is, no, it's not too soon because Kevin Feige, as we know, is doing a pretty good job so far.
He's all right.
He's all right.
He's all right. I'll give him a 1 year extension.
And what he does so brilliantly is that he teases the properties that are coming out through little interviews here and there. He's talked about Strange for a while. They've been working on this thing. It's always been in the plan to get it out. They have a timeline. They know what they're going to do with it. They mentioned Stephen Strange in Captain America 2. We're okay.
Mark?
Yeah, and it also tells me that the setbacks that happened with AntMan don't faze them at all. That maybe they saw what happened with AntMan, they're like, okay, let's try not to let this happen again. But even with AntMan going forward, if they can get that, if they can pull that off this coming summer, they're going to be fine with Doctor Strange. And plus, like you said, they're already in pre-production with this. So they're getting their ducks in a row ahead of time. It's like when you were a kid, you read all your summer reading in July, so you don't have to worry about all that other stuff like late August. Makes total sense to me.
You know, I'm glad you brought up Ant-Man 2 because let's say we all know all the drama that's gone on with Ant-Man. Probably the most drama we've had since the real Marvel age has started in the film world. If they do what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, if they just crush Ant-Man and make it amazing, and everybody loves it the way they love Guardians of the Galaxy, what would Marvel have to do to lose confidence? Like, at what point then, if that happens, what would have to phase us? Like, if they lose Edgar Wright, all that stuff's going on, and they still make a great movie, do we ever doubt Marvel again?
I love you even have to ask that question. Yeah. And that Chris and I are both like, I don't know what they would do.
But I mean, I think that we have to also remember that this is a fickle business. That it is. It's a fickle business. So if they put out a movie that is horrendous, like horrendous, people are going to go, whoa, that last one was a stinker. And then, I mean, look at Pixar. Pixar hit, had a couple of ones that just didn't hit great, even Cars 2 or whatever it was. And
yeah,
you're like,
Brave, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're like, but you still trust in them. But they could, right now, Marvel's just on a hot streak. So eventually, if they have a couple stinkers, the audience could go, well, I don't know, get us back on track here. That just isn't happening.
I almost want them to have a stinker. They're like a pitcher throwing a perfect game right now, and I don't want to talk to them when they're in the dugout. It's like, just keep doing your thing, man.
All right, what's next?
Things keep moving ahead for the upcoming Paramount film Star Trek III. As you all know, writer Roberto Orci will take over for J.J. Abrams and direct the new film, and now we may know when it will begin production. In a recent interview, actor Zachary Quinto, who plays Spock in the franchise, he claimed the new film will most likely start shooting in the next 6 months. This puts the film on pace for a summer 2016 release date. Christian, is there anything surprising about Quinto's comments to you?
Yeah, all of it. Because from reports, and maybe I'm lost on the last couple of reports, but the last ones that I remember hearing was they're not sure if they're going to go ahead and they hired him to direct, but they don't know yet if they like the script, if it's going to go into production yet. We don't know if it's coming out, when it's going to come out. And it looked like it was backtracking a little bit. Now this just seems like, no, we're on course, we're ready to go, and it's coming out sooner than you think. So I mean, maybe they're very happy with the script, and Orci now they're saying, yeah, this is definitely the guy to do the job. He's instilled confidence. They're ready to have him direct. So, yeah, it's shocking to me, and if it works, it works. I liked the last movie. I liked it more than most people did, and I
really enjoyed the last movie.
I enjoyed it. I watched it again, and I liked it more. The first time I saw it, I thought it was good, and the second time I liked it more than I did the first time. So I'm curious to see where the storyline goes without JJ at the helm.
You know, I heard the same things you have. Okay, what we do know is that Orci and these two other writers, I'm forgetting who they were right now, but two other writers, they finished the first draft, but it's still just the first draft, and they turned it. And I did hear that the studio had notes on it, but that shouldn't surprise us, and that's really nothing unusual. And sometimes when you can go from a first draft to your working script in 3 days. I mean, it can also take 3 years. But I think this sounds like I know they want to nail that summer 2016 date. Sure. I know they are dedicated to that date. So I'm only surprised because I thought they might even start shooting sooner. I was kind of anticipating that any day now we're going to hear some surprise announcement that, hey, by the way, today in New Orleans they started principal photography on the new Star Trek. So 6 months is actually a little bit outside of the scope I was thinking of. My one doubt in all this, and all of this Star Trek 3 thing is, as much as I really like Roberto Orci, I still don't think a Star Trek on a hot streak as a franchise is the place to do your first directing.
I agree.
But I'm cheering for him. I like Roberto Orci. I want to see him do great.
I mean, I thought it worked okay with the first-time big-budget director with Godzilla this past year. I thought that worked out okay, and that was reinvigorating a franchise as opposed to.
But that wasn't his first directing gig.
It was his first big-budget movie.
Big budget,
you know?
but he's directed before.
Yeah, but I mean, the guy knows how to make movies. I mean, he's proven that he's in this position for a reason, is what I'm saying. So I don't think there's any reason to doubt this. I'm excited it happened. Maybe future Spock told this Spock that this is going to happen, given the timeline stuff in the new Star Trek movies. There's probably some communication back and forth, so sure, let's have it.
You know, the other thing, too, is that maybe they know, because J.J. Abrams is still probably helping him out as far as
I would assume so.
He's encouraging it. And whenever the next spin-off film for Star Wars comes out in 2016, they're probably going to want to get Star Trek out before that. Because you know that Star Wars is going to crush in December, Episode 7, and then the spin-off will come out a year later. So why not capitalize on the sci-fi craze started with Guardians of the Galaxy? We're back into the science fiction, space opera. Yep. We're back because of Guardians. Now we get excited. So yeah, let's capitalize it and have one every 6 months.
Let me throw this out to you guys and see what you think. There has been a prevailing thought, it looks pretty much like JJ is going to be doing the Star Wars Episode 7, but then for at least the foreseeable future, he's done with Star Wars. There's a prevailing thought that he's going to come back to Star Trek. That the plan is that he's going to come back to Star Trek after Star Wars. Let me ask you this. Roberto Orci does Star Trek 3 and kills it, and it's the most beloved of all the new Star Trek films.
I know where you're going with this.
This is like a football question.
Yeah.
Hey, your starting quarterback got injured, the backup came in and did a great job. Now who do they go with? Let's say Orci kills Star Trek 3, but JJ is willing to come back. Do you go with the hot hand or do you go back to JJ?
Okay, as a Washington Redskins fan, I have
this is very relevant right
with
now.
all of my friends. Is it Finn the Third or is it Kirk Cousins? If he knocks Star Trek 3 out of the park, then by all means, have a Star Wars movie, because I love what J.J. Abrams did with particularly Into Darkness. That felt like, when I was watching that opening scene, I'm like, this guy's totally the right dude to make a Star Wars movie. So if he knocks it that far out of the park, having said that, I don't know if he's going to do that, and I don't know that they would want to wait that long to name a director for Episode 8 or even Episode 9.
Episode 8 already.
Yeah. They already have Episode 8.
Yeah, they have Episode 8 with Ryan Johnson. But so what they're going to do, but yeah, and Mark's right. I think that I don't think that J.J. Abrams is going to come back to Star Trek. I don't think he will, because I think he's ultimately he's going to serve as like the Kevin Feige of the whole. I think that's part of the deal with Star Wars. He'll step back. He's going to produce all the Star Wars.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
He could be the Kevin Feige of space.
I do. Well, that's true, but I think he's going to be. I think he's going to have a heavy hand in all the Star Wars stuff. He goes to those meetings. There's a big collaborative meeting from supposedly with him and Rian Johnson and Gareth Edwards, and he's setting the timeline for Episode 7 and moving everything forward. I think he's going to be too heavily involved to come back to Star Trek, but that's just me.
All right, folks, we reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Chris Lee's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to run them down, and those of us at the table are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Chris Lee, what do you got?
It was announced last week that actor Morgan Freeman was joining the upcoming remake of Ben-Hur, based more on the novel Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ. It's now been reported that Boardwalk Empire actor Jack Huston will be taking on the lead role, once played by Charlton Heston in the original. Mark, buy or sell Jack Huston playing Ben-Hur?
I am totally buying this. This is exciting to me. I don't watch Boardwalk Empire, but I watch those Guinness Black commercials that Jack Huston was in. And then he was in On the Road, and he's in a couple other little movies, and every time he pops in something, he's great. He crushes it. So I'm very excited to see him in a starring role like this. I think he's going to be great.
I really like him in Boardwalk Empire a lot. He's like he's the best character in the show, and he's brings so much personality, enthusiasm, energy. I'm going to sell it. And the reason I'm going to sell it is really a bad reason. But here it is. I am always the guy who says, go with the no-name or go with a really high-caliber, high-talented B-list actor, blah, blah, blah. But for Ben-Hur, I don't know why. I've always had this feeling and desire, actually, that they would put a George Clooney type, that they would get the creme de la creme of Hollywood. Because remember, Charlton Heston was already Charlton Heston when they did Ben-Hur. I mean, he had already done 10 Commandments, right? So he was the guy. And I've always kind of pictured them really making this high profile by putting somebody in there that is like of really big stature. I'm not thrilled with the Morgan Freeman casting, because as super talented as he is, it feels a little bit like picking up a generic part off of a Walmart shelf right now, because Morgan Freeman's in about 45 films a year. But look, he's very talented. He's great. I'm sure it's going to be a great movie. I was just hoping for big A-lister one time in my life. Anyway, what do you think?
I buy it because he's got chops, and because he's one of the guys that was rumored around Doctor Strange as well for a little bit too.
I'd say there's still an outside shot. He may end up being Doctor Strange.
I think that this takes him out of it.
Think so?
Yeah, I would agree with you yesterday if I didn't hear about this story, but now that this one, I think that this is the one where they're going to try to get him to the star power level, and I don't think he's one of those guys like, again, I always bring up Sam Worthington, where they're just like, hey, here's your movie star, take it. He's not that guy. He's a guy that's got a lot of talent, and I think the movie you were thinking about wasn't On the Road. It was with Kerouac. He played Kerouac, but it was in that Daniel Radcliffe movie.
Yeah, I think he was in On the Road too.
Where the students in the school.
He was playing Kerouac, and they're on the run.
I get very fuzzy around the 1940s,
but
1950s.
Yeah, no, that's because he did play Kerouac, but he was great in that one, because I agree with Mark. When those Guinness commercials come on, I'm like, I can't stand this guy. And then I see parts of Boardwalk Empire, and I saw that movie where he played Kerouac. He is very talented. I'd like to see what he does at Ben-Hur. So, yeah, I'd buy it.
All right, what's next?
As many of you know, rumors have been swirling that a new Ghostbusters movie could go into production, and the possibility that such a movie could feature an all-female cast. In a recent interview, co-creator and star of the original franchise, Dan Aykroyd, made the following comments. My whole thinking on Ghostbusters now is it's beyond just a sequel, a prequel, another movie, another TV show. I'm thinking now, what does the whole brand mean to Sony? What's Pixar and Star Wars mean to Disney? What does Marvel mean to Fox? Everybody, all of us on the team there now, the executives, the creatives, myself, Ivan Reitman, we're thinking more in terms of what do we build this thing into in the next 10 years. John, buy or sell Aykroyd's comments?
3 words. Delusions of grandeur. I mean, God bless Dan Aykroyd and your good Canadian heart. I think that's great that you're thinking so positively. But Danny, you've been talking about this movie, about doing this movie for 10, 15 years. And all this stuff going on. By the way, once again, a lot of people reporting as if that the next Ghostbusters is going to be an all-female cast. That's not been confirmed by anybody. That's just Aykroyd once said in an interview. We might do that. Maybe do that in a 4th film, whatever. So let's just take a step back. They've been talking about Ghostbusters forever. Will this happen? Probably, but I'm still going to stay on my stance that I bet this movie never happens. I bet it just never happens. Now, I'm probably wrong. It probably will happen. It looks like there are enough pieces moving right now that it seems inevitable. But just for the sake of stubbornness, I'm going to stay on that spot that I don't think this movie's ever going to happen, no matter what Dan Aykroyd says. Anyway, Mark, what do you think?
I think this actually takes some of the pressure off of just a Ghostbusters 3 movie, and I think that was the intention behind the statement, is that we can do something else with Ghostbusters. We don't have to just make this movie, because there's all these rumors that have been swirling around this thing forever. We can make a TV show instead. We can do a cartoon. We can bring back the real Ghostbusters, and we can just do the voices of Venkman and Winston and Stan and all something like that. So I think this is actually a strategic move to say, hey, let's all take a breath on this one Ghostbusters 3 thing and just celebrate more of the entire universe, and maybe that'll get people's creative minds thinking in a different way about where it could go.
I just know that he's comparing it to Star Wars and Marvel. Anyway,
I sell it. I sell it in the fact, even if it's great, even if the movie is great, I don't want to see a universe of Ghostbusters. It's like, if it's a female cast, cool, I'm all for that. I think that could be a lot of fun. But in using Marvel and Star Wars, these are universes that are very set up, and through comics and stories and classic movies that people are very attached to. Ghostbusters 1 is a great movie. 2 is all right, but there's not enough mythology behind it to really make me care to go 10 years. I think that that's what everybody does now. If they have somewhat of a franchise, wait, we got monsters and we got everything else. Let's make a shared universe. Shared universes are hot right now. And it's like, this doesn't need to be a shared universe. It doesn't need to be an expanding thing. One movie, and if it's fun, great.
All right, what's next?
It's being reported that former 24 star Dennis Haysbert has joined the cast for the upcoming comedy sequel Ted 2, set to hit AMC theaters on June 26, 2015. Haysbert joins other newcomers to the Ted world, Amanda Seyfried and Morgan Freeman. Christian, buy or sell Dennis Haysbert joining Ted 2?
I buy it, and Seth MacFarlane, if you're watching, you have to put a Jabu reference in. You have to. You have to. You have to have Jabu in there. I love Dennis Haysbert. Anything he's in, even when he was in, he was one of the bright spots in the last Sin City movie as well too. He's great, and he adds to it. And I think that even if it's a smaller role, who cares? You get actors that don't normally do these types of comedies. It'll be fun. Anyone they cast in Ted 2 right now, I'm pretty much going to buy, unless it's like Justin Bieber. But even that would be funny, because maybe Ted smacks him in the face. It could be a lot of fun.
Mark?
Yeah, sure, I'll buy it. Look, I'm sick of hearing about these other people in Ted 2. Confirm or deny Sam Jones coming back. That's all any of us care about. We want to know if Flash Gordon is going to be in the sequel. I don't think they're going to make any Jobu references. I don't think there's going to be anything to any of his former characters. I think Dennis Haysbert, he'll probably play like the owner of the Enterprise Rent-A-Car or something like that. But there's going to be no reference to any other character he ever played.
It's a side bet. It's a side bet.
Put $5 on him.
I'm going to buy it. I think he's great. I mean, he was the reason I got hooked on 24. To me, he really anchored that show, and I thought he's got a great, powerful on-screen presence. I think he's terrific. I'm going to make this into a little actioneer three-way bet here. I bet he will not do a Jabu reference, although I will jump up and down and celebrate with you if he does. But I do believe there will be a reference. I will believe there will be an Allstate insurance joke in there somewhere at some point in this movie.
He could play the judge that is litigating the case, or he's overseeing the case that Morgan Freeman is
Judge
arguing.
Jabu.
He's not going to be Judge Jabu.
No? Damn it.
You're in good hands with Judge Jabu.
You're in good hands. There it goes. All right, we've reached our part of the show now for Mailbag. Listen, guys, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, we're going to save a couple of minutes at the end of the show, too, to answer some of your live Twitter questions. So for those of you watching us live, hop on Twitter, start sending in some questions to @AMC Movie News, and Chris Lee will pick out a couple. But for now, let's get to the mailbag.
Adam Choate writes, hello, AMC, you guys rock. I noticed in the Age of Ultron synopsis, it said Tony Stark tries to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program. I assumed he created Ultron on his own, but could this mean Stark is not the sole creator? Could we see a reference to Hank Pym or another person? I know Joss Whedon said he changed Ultron's origin, but still, could this mean something? Howard Stark is confirmed to appear in Ant-Man, so maybe there's something there?
It's a good theory, actually, because, the one thing that doesn't upset people, remember, I always say, just because it's based on a comic, don't think they have to stick to what's in the comics. They don't. But Hank Pym creates Ultron, and now in the movie universe, it looks like Tony Stark does. I did not consider that when I read that line, that based on an old program, hey, Pym has been doing, and being played by Michael Douglas in Ant-Man, has been doing this for a long time. Maybe what Stark does is come along and start to build on some foundation that Pym, maybe with Stark's dad, started 40 years ago. It's an interesting thing, because that would be a very simple, non-disruptive wink to the comic book fans to say, Pym, I don't think you're going to see Michael Douglas in this. I think he got on board a little too late in the game. It's possible. But I think it's a really good theory. I don't think that's what they're going to do. but it's a great theory and it's plausible, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Christian?
I think it's a tremendous theory, and I think that one of the reasons is that, going back to what we were just talking about with Doctor Strange, when they mentioned Stephen Strange in Captain America, we haven't heard any references or anything with Ant-Man at all. It hasn't been. I think you're going to get some kind of play, something, in Avengers 2 to set up Ant-Man coming out the same year as Avengers 2. So you're going to have a little bit of setup there, whether it be in the post-credits or whatnot. But this would be really cool if it was Hank Pym, in fact, that created Ultron. I like it. Mark?
Yeah, I mean, the viewer made a great point, too, is that Howard Stark is going to appear somewhat in Ant-Man, right? So I think that obviously Ant-Man wants a Stark involvement a lot more than the Avengers 2 would rely on an Ant-Man involvement. So I think it really might just depend on Marvel's confidence in Ant-Man to perform and be a great movie, that they would want to associate something that's already a proven franchise. Like, you don't want to have the Avengers 2 and then just tie that into any other Marvel. You want to make sure that's a good Marvel universe that can factor in. Because if Ant-Man's terrible, then you want to dissociate the Avengers from the bad Marvel movie.
Well, there's also two ways to look at that, too. If you have Howard Stark younger or whatnot, or youngish, interacting with a younger Hank Pym, it doesn't necessarily have to be Michael Douglas. Could be somebody else playing in the flashback.
That's true. That's true.
They could do that, or it could just, you take out Hank Pym altogether, and it's Howard Stark that started the program first. Now his son's just going to continue on to that program. So,
all right, what's next?
I love this question so much. I'm so excited to hear you guys' answers. Julio Guzman writes, can you accurately critique a film adaptation even if you don't read the source that it's based on?
Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, I'll go so far as to say you are not accurately critiquing a film if you even take any of the source material into consideration whatsoever, because you take the movie for the movie. I talked about this a couple times. I've actually started a new rule for myself a few years ago where if a movie is coming out that's based on a book, for instance, in the past, there would be times like, oh, movie's coming out, it's going to be based on the book. I'll run out and grab the book and read the book and see the movie. And now I've got a new rule for myself. Don't do that. Because now you're not taking the movie on its own merits. You're taking it based on what you've created in your imagination of what the movie should be, and that's always dangerous to do. So I think, honestly, I think you're doing a disservice to film criticism at all if you consider the source material. I go so far as to say, don't look at the source material at all. Because remember, when you're making these movies that are based on some source material, the goal is not to make as faithful as an adaptation as possible. That's not the goal. That shouldn't be even taken into consideration. The goal is to make the best movie possible. If that means sticking to the source material, great. If it means departing from the source material, great. So, yes, I do think you can properly critique a film without referencing this or knowing source material. Anyway.
That was really well done. That was practice. That was good stuff. Look, I hope so, because I won Battle of the Books in my region when I was in 6th grade.
It's the last time he's right.
That is the last time that Mark Ellis picked up a book and finished it without Cliff Notes. So, yeah, and I agree with you. I just, for the simple fact that if there's a movie coming out about a book, why would I read the book now? Because it's a spoiler. Like, I don't want to know what happens at the end of the movie, and this book's giving it away. They should take it off the shelves. They should burn them. Maybe that's a little far, but we'll work on that.
Christian?
As coming from someone who does read and does review films, I read a lot of the stuff, but I do agree that you have to separate a lot of the time, for sure. I think that sometimes it does help to read when you want to see if there's this particular book that hits a certain amount of tones and whether or not the director hit the same type of tone or message that the book might have done. But you do want to review them separately as a film. This is a film that you're watching. So even with the example of not going through a review or anything about the movie, but The Maze Runner, I hadn't read the book. I saw the movie, I had my own opinions of never hearing the story, and I reviewed it as what I saw on the screen.
Right.
And the acting, and it judges it differently. So, yeah, I don't think that you should really take consideration into the material unless you want to judge themes and all that stuff for your own well-being.
I think the book can enhance your viewing experience, but I don't think that it's a negative reflection if you're critiquing a movie just based on the film and not the source material.
Like this came up just recently because me and another friend of mine were talking about the upcoming movie Gone Girl. I'm so excited for that movie. And then you know, my friend, she goes, hey, I've got the book. You should read it before the movie. I'm like, are you crazy? Right. I don't want to know everything that's going to happen in the movie. Like, keep that thing away from me.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. But if you read it right beforehand, a certain movie, that it can, if it's a big spoiler at the end for you as well, it does. It changes your opinion on the story as well, because you know what's going to happen. I read all the Hunger Games, but I know what happens, and I know where Katniss finally ends up and what happens there. it's still cool to watch these movies, but sometimes I go, oh man, maybe I wish I didn't know that. I don't know.
But they may be taking some liberties too, because with Gone Girl, this is what I've heard. This has not been confirmed by nobody, nowhere, anytime, okay? But what I have heard is that Fincher with Gone Girl has actually changed the ending to be different from the ending of the book. Yeah. And that is going to, if I read the book first and if I love the book, then when I see that on screen, if that's what happens, they change the ending, my first reaction is going to be anger. Yeah. How dare you change from the book? But maybe if I hadn't read the book and saw the movie, it's like, perfect. This was a great movie. I don't know.
Didn't he do that with Girl with Dragon Tattoo also? Maybe?
I never actually, I saw the original film. I didn't actually read the book. So
yeah. See, my strategy with Gone Girl is I'm going to see the movie first, and then I'm not going to read the book.
In that order.
Yeah, in that order. I'm not going to read the book after.
That's smart.
All right, folks. Well, we said we leave a couple of minutes at the end of the show for some of your live Twitter questions, and we're going to do that just now. You might have time to sneak one in if you haven't done so already. Tweet to us at AMC Movie News. Crystal is our gatekeeper. So, Crystal, what have you picked out?
Chris Marabella says, why did the 300 sequel do much better than the Sin City sequel? Both came out 8 to 9 years after the original.
That's a
good question.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I also think that for some reason, depending on the Gladiator movies and the 300 original, I think did better than the original Sin City. It was a bigger, bigger property when it first came out, and I think the Gladiator big epic scales would always have a better chance of pulling in audiences, more so than the smaller film noir, very specific audience. So maybe that's why.
And look, to just go to a marketing point of view, I remember when the first trailer for Sin City finally dropped, and we talked about it on this show, and I said, look, everybody knows I've been looking forward to the new Sin City. I think they've waited 5 years too long, but I'm looking forward to this movie, and that trailer did nothing for me. The marketing of that film, I think, was very blah. And if I wasn't somebody who had already been looking forward to Sin City, it wouldn't have done anything to get me excited. Whereas 300, Rise of an Empire, even if you didn't see the original 300, hey, this looks like a high-octane kind of lots of adrenaline, I'm a man, let's go see the movies, and Eva Green. So there was more enticement there just from the marketing point of view, but you're right, it is kind of surprised that 300 sequel does fairly well, and the Sin City sequel may have ended some careers.
Yeah, well, I think that 300, when the first one came out, that entered the pop culture lexicon in a way that Sin City could never touch. I mean, you had every dude at a bar would slam a shot and yell Sparta right afterwards. You don't have a creepy guy in the corner drinking a beer, and then like Sin City, you know, like, oh, she was a leggy dame, and I was looking at her from the corner.
Yeah.
I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah, completely agree. All
Why
right.
am I talking to myself?
What else we got in there?
Anthony Ibarra says, with movies such as Exodus and Noah popping up, could we see the Iliad and Odyssey reboot brought to the big screen?
I'm pretty positive there is an Odyssey thing in the. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head, but we talked about it not too long ago. And look, these old classic, especially the Greek mythology stuff, these, whether it's a direct make of them or whether it's heavily influenced by, we see incarnations of those stories in particular all the time. Like a great example of that is "O Brother, Where Art Thou?" Right? I mean, because it's completely based on Homer's. So I think we will always see these incarnations, and I think we'll see some direct manifestations, if you will, of them too. So what do you guys think?
I think we will, and I think because of the box office success, we will. And I think Exodus is going to do very well in the box office, even if it turns out to be slow and boring. There's a specific audience that will go see it. There are people that, what they're doing now with the example of like Noah and Exodus, is they're getting not just like the hardcore, let's say religious fans that are going to see these properties, they're changing it up into where they're now going after what we just talked about with 300, the epic movie fan, to where they're
because that's what they used to be, right? Whether it's the original Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments, they weren't just like biblical religious films.
Right.
Those were epic scale Hollywood films.
You had to experience those things in a theater. I mean, I remember my dad telling me a story when he saw the Ten Commandments. It just took over the screen in a way that you hadn't seen that before. And I think that whatever you want to say about religion, there's some really cool stories in the Bible. And when you use that as an epic storytelling, like I don't think that there's actually an ark that Noah got. I don't think Noah got on a boat. I don't think his daughter was Hermione. However, when you see that movie,
I'm pretty sure that's actually in the Bible.
It is.
Noah's daughter is Hermione.
Which one is Quidditch in? Is that Harry Potter? Or
I have
is
a
that the
theological
Bible?
background, so I can tell you right now.
Yeah, it's just I think it's a good excuse to tell a really epic story. So I think you'll keep seeing them.
All right, what's next?
The new Bradass says, heard a while back about a possible reboot for Weird Science. Any news on this, or was it just a rumor?
That came out about 6 months ago, I think. But to be fair, the remake for Weird Science has actually popped up, or at least rumors of it has popped up at least every 2 or 3 years. We've heard something of it. I just don't know if that works. I'm all for remakes. I'm fine with remakes. I don't care. They might suck and that doesn't matter. But I don't know how a weird science story works today.
See, I don't want to see a remake because I love the original so much, but I actually think that if you're gonna remake it, it probably makes more sense to do it today because they did it with a computer back in the day, and the technology wasn't. This is 1985 or 86 or whatever it was, and I thought because Joel Silver was one of the producers, strangely enough, on that movie, I thought that the rumor was that he was doing it as well. I don't know, but it depends on the comedy team. It depends on the director. I just hope it's not the same comedy actors that we get. I like to see brand new kids that do it. Maybe get some comedy stars, and it could work.
You don't want to see Michael Hall come back?
I want to see Bill Paxton come back as Chet. I think that'd be great if he was like Uncle Chet and he still came down wearing nothing but a towel. It'd be hysterical. I love this idea simply for the fact that if you remake Weird Science, it means that it's going to take you longer to remake Back to the Future. I think we can all get behind that.
All right, we got time for 2 more quick ones. Let's get 2 more.
All right. Gabe wants to know what are some of the overlooked or underrated films that you've seen this year. For him, it's The One I Love.
Oh, The One I Love is a really good one. Start with you guys. I'm going to cheat and look at my film list for this year.
I mean, I feel like every time, as far as underrated, every time this question comes up, I always say the
But
same
this year?
thing. Yeah, I always say Edge
Oh,
of
I know where you're
Tomorrow.
going. Yeah.
I always say Edge of Tomorrow. I think we talked about it last week, and it's the movie, to me, that was going to be and trying to be one of the best of the year so far.
Yeah, and I think there's a reason why you say that these certain movies are underrated. It's because I can't remember any of them right now. I think that Godzilla still, to me, I liked it more than a lot of other people did, and I think that people maybe didn't appreciate the theater experience as much as I did. I think the storytelling up to the cool reveal that everybody loved was really exciting, so I'd probably go with that.
I'm going to Edge of Tomorrow. You have to, and that's the studio's fault that it got so overlooked because they put out the worst
Title,
marketing
trailers,
campaign,
everything. Yeah.
Titles, everything is awful. I also really like Godzilla, but I think there's enough of us that you can't really call it underrated. I think there's enough of us that like Godzilla. I'm looking down. Oh, just because nobody saw it, Chef.
Oh yeah.
Just because nobody saw it.
But Chef though, for the market that it was in. It did really, really well. So people who were seeing it in the store loved it.
People who saw it
trucks.
loved it. I think Grant told me like 31 million bucks, which is way beyond what I think they thought it was going to make. But still, next to nobody saw it.
Right.
So it's still in AMC theaters, so they can go see it now.
Nice.
Yes.
Now they can go see
Good point.
it.
Okay, last question of the day.
All right, last one from Jason Smith wants to know, will Jurassic World return us to the wonderment and just pure adventure of the original?
I think when you the guy who's
Director Colin Trevorrow.
Trevor, I think when he said that was his actual goal. He wants that. We all remember that moment in Jurassic Park when the doctor gets out of the Jeep and he's taking his glasses off, shaking, and then the camera pans around and you see the landscape. That sense of awe and wonder and magic. Oh, and the musical score. It's so incredible. That's what he said we need again. We need that again in Jurassic Park. But how do you do it when Jurassic Park already exists? We've been desensitized to that. We now see Godzilla walking through downtown, whatever. That's going to be the challenge. If he can pull that off, magic. But that is what they're going for. They're not just going for a big, let's have the T-Rex attack New York City, lots of explosions. They're going back to, let's capture that awe and wonder and fear.
Yeah.
You could make an argument that Jurassic Park could almost be adventure, sci-fi / small letters horror. Mm-hmm. I mean, because that movie's terrifying. Yeah. If he can capture that again, awesome.
I think he's going to. I think even an interview that we did with him a while ago, he said he's going to follow what came before him, and meaning the first one, and he was being very as tiptoey as he could about it. But another thing people aren't bringing up about it is we keep forgetting that Chris Pratt's in this thing. Chris Pratt, from this being in the biggest movie of the year, is going to add now tremendous star power and people butts in the seats. So I think that Chris Pratt is in a career path to where he's going to start doing movies that are. It's not going to be the third Jurassic Park. It's going to be back to, I think, the originals. Yeah,
it could be a really good movie, and I'm really excited to see Jurassic World. You ain't getting the magic you got with the first one.
You don't think so at all?
It's gonna be hard.
I think it's literally impossible to do because that furthered the art of cinema in a way that we hadn't seen before. That opened so many doors, and you had just never seen a dinosaur on screen before, like what you said. You're going to have already seen dinosaurs on screen. It could be really cool. There could be this cool aqua monster that nobody's ever heard of before, but it's not going to have the magic of the first Jurassic Park. It could be a 5 out of 5. It ain't going to be the magic of the first one.
I don't know. With Trevorrow, he's one of I think he's a special director. I think he's a guy that did a small film. He's similar to Gareth Edwards, to where they're like, hey, you did something.
Safety not guaranteed.
Yeah, you did something great. Let's see what you do in the big time, kid. And I think he's going to knock it out of the park.
All right, folks, so that'll do it for us for this installment of AMC Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all your theater, showtime, and of course your movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, look in the description of this video and you'll find a link to our podcast feed. And don't forget to click the thumbs up button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I want to thank, as always, the guy sitting at the table with me. First of all, starting to my immediate right, Mr. Christian Harloff. Christian, where can people find you online?
On Twitter, and you guys are the most interactive fans of all time. So at Christian Harloff, find me on Twitter and let's talk movies.
And of course, our special guest today, his partner from Schmoes Know, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can people find you?
You can find me and Christian on our website, schmoesno.com. On Twitter, I'm at 5150Ellis. And this weekend, I'll be at Southern New Hampshire University doing stand-up, if that's a real college.
Our host today, the gatekeeper herself, Miss Chris Lee Kennedy. Chris Lee, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on all social media at Chris Lee, and I'll see you next week because I'm headed to Nashville to cover a fun new movie.
Woohoo! And of course, you can find me on the various social media networks, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, just at John Campea. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name is John Campea for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.